All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We are back with another video and back with, again, vinyl finds, or where am I going to put all these records? So hopefully everybody's doing okay out there. Let's get right to it. Off the top, I've got some reissues or new releases, if you will, generally reissues in my case. This is the Psych classic from the 13th Floor Elevators. This is Easter Everywhere, an album that I had never actually listened to in its entirety, but this is really a Psych classic, 13th Floor Elevators. So this is a 2 LP colored vinyl edition, one mono record and one stereo record. And so this is a reissue on Charlie, and it's a really nice presentation, and it sounds great, and it comes in its own little bag here, if you will. So let's take a look at the vinyl here. But yeah, it's kind of nice, just a 2 LP, both mono and stereo. Nice pictures inside, and interesting for the sleeves inside. So for the mono edition, you get the lyrics here on a nice, it's kind of a heavy duty sleeve, not poly-lined inside though. And then you got pretty cool splatter kind of vinyl thing going on. And for the mono, they have it as like a promo copy, saying not for sale, so like a white promo copy. So that is for the mono record, and then for the stereo record, they have it simply in a white sleeve, lined white sleeve, and then the same sort of splatter vinyl, if you will, but then different kind of label for the stereo version. But plays great, that sounds great, and pretty happy to pick that one up. And I thought the price point on that, I picked that up at my local record store, Sound Fixation. I thought the price was pretty good on it. Okay, I've seen this certainly presented many times in the VC. You've likely seen this one, John Coltrane Quartet and Crescent. And this is part of the Acoustic Sound series, Impulse 60. Great performance, absolutely enjoyed it. And it's interesting, this also sort of, with this kind of jazz series, also sort of comes in its own bag, if you will. You sort of just rip the thing off the top. But this has some of the most heavyweight in terms of the actual vinyl jacket. It is like really, really solid in terms of that. Okay, so that is John Coltrane. I've talked about this one. This is the German band Can, and this is live in Brighton, 1975. They've been issuing a series of these concerts where it's fully instrumental, so it's all improv and sort of exploratory. They don't have a vocalist at this time, and these are triple album sets, also available on CD, and you can stream it pretty easily, but with the big trifold thing going on here. And just so fascinating to listen to. And they come in these kind of heavy cardboard sleeves, but I do put just a little sleeve inside just to take care of the record, but kind of funky the colored vinyl on this one. But this has been just a terrific series that I've really enjoyed from Can, and hope to hear more from that. Up until now, I never had the first album from the Grateful Dead until now. So this is the Rhino Warner reissues, Grateful Dead's debut. Absolute classic, 180 gram vinyl. This was a recommendation from Blues Guy Vinyl. He showed this one. This was from one of the last RSD Black Friday days. This is Ray Charles and his orchestra and the Raylettes live in Stockholm, 1972. A terrific performance, and this is described as the first time on vinyl, pressed in opaque gold vinyl. And so we'll take a look at that. And nice label here, and there you have it. Okay, I have this as a original copy or an early release on this Deep Purple album. This is part of that Rocktober series. From Rhino Warner, and this is Come Taste the Band. Now, for Deep Purple fans, this is not everybody's favorite album. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent album. Of course, the only album, studio album with Tommy Bolin. And it's interesting, just reading about this album, that this is the only Deep Purple album that features neither Ritchie Blackmore or Ian Gillan. Of course, the band would take quite a lengthy hiatus generally after this album, and then Ian Gillan would be part of the band again. So yeah, it's just interesting to note. And this again is on the as with all of these releases, this is on purple vinyl, so we got to take a look at the vinyl. And I'll just take a look at the sleeve there, and that. and pretty standard. Purple vinyl. Okay, now we're going to get into previously enjoyed vinyl. These are pickups at both things like, at online that I found them, also at thrift stores, that sort of thing. And so let's get right to more records here. We've got Beau Dommage, a great Canadian band that predominantly sang in French. And this one is really the sort of prog leanings of this band, Beau Dommage. They were kind of rock, maybe folk rock, but this one had definite prog leanings, but really happy to pick up any Beau Dommage. Here's a thrift store find I just couldn't leave. I love the cover, Music for Dining. And certainly when you see anything with a living stereo, you know it's going to be generally quite well recorded. Not familiar with this orchestra at all. And it's interesting, again, thank you so much for all the comments about my Aunt Fern. And a couple videos ago, I showed my Aunt Fern's record collection. But it's interesting with these types of albums. It's often this style of the full color, and then it's usually some sort of drawing on the back. That sort of thing. So it's interesting that this was a special issue for new owners of RCA Victor stereo high fidelity phonographs, not for regular sales. So I guess this is kind of like a promo copy as well. But they often had, just a nice full color and then some sort of, drawing on the back sort of thing. Okay, was happy to come across this. Again, Grateful Dead fans take note of the band Kingfish, and this is Live and Kickin', and this features Bob Weir. Now, this was the last album, I believe, that Bob Weir, this is a live performance, and I understand that at this time he was already then back with the Grateful Dead, and Kingfish kind of wanted to just sort of do their own thing, so he's not predominant in this mix, but they have that sort of Grateful Dead kind of feel going on, but yeah, a band worth checking out, Kingfish. Okay, here's kind of a sort of a Frankenstein issue where you have an album and then you have some of the other bits and pieces from that album and then put it together. Case in point, this was from an online auction. I was able to pick up Kiss Dynasty. I used to own this album long ago. I have it, of course, on CD, but I've discovered just recently that I did keep the poster. And when you're finding Kiss Dynasty used, often the poster is not included. Now, ironically, with this, the inner sleeve was not included, so it's not part of that. Now, for anyone who hasn't seen the poster, and I'm just kind of glad. I don't know why particularly I kept the poster. It's a nice big poster that's included with this, but and also listening to this album again. They were exploring the disco a little bit with this album, but overall, this is still a good album. I really like the, and again, Peter Criss doesn't really play on here. He's featured on here, but the Peter Criss tune, Dirty Livin', is pretty solid. Ace Frehley gets a couple of tunes in here. His cover of Rolling Stones' 2000 Man is great. And Paul Stanley Sure Knows Something is good, and Gene Simmons' Charisma, they all shine pretty good on this album. And I do like the cover too. I like the simplicity of the cover that kind of really spotlights their makeup. So Kiss Dynasty, or if you're in England, Dynasty. There you go. But yeah, so that was kind of Frankenstein together, and I just discovered recently, my wife had found that we'd kept the poster. Okay, a couple of Sonny and Cher albums. How about Sonny and Cher's debut, Look at Us? It features I Got You, Babe. And amongst the musicians is Harold Baptiste, who is in the Baptiste family. John Baptiste on the Stephen Colbert Show, and I think Harold was either an uncle or a cousin, something like that. But yeah, happy to pick that up. Not in the best of shape. Again, sometimes these 60s albums, but this is a mono record. Sometimes these are not in the best of shape, and this one's okay. This one's in a little bit better shape. The follow-up, The Wonderful World of Sonny and Cher. Laugh at Me was the hit from this one, but there's only there's only two Sonny Bono written songs on this one, and the rest being kind of covers and things like that, as was often the case in the 60s. Okay, love Donnie Iris. Not too thrilled with this one. Donnie Iris had the big hit, Leah. He had kind of that Buddy Holly look going on, but he had kind of a nice 80s sound. This one is really getting much more into the kind of 80s thing, and I think the only hits on this one were minor hits like She's So European and Do You Compute. This one, it just feels like the 80s sound is kind of overtaking it. Not one of my favorite ones. Okay, this was an odd one I couldn't pass up. This is The Worst of the Mothers, the Mothers of Invention, and this is Canadian Press on Quality Records, an MGM release. This is not a very lengthy album, but I just thought, well, you know, the price wasn't too bad, so I thought, yeah, I'll definitely pick that up. You might hear my cat Jack in the background here. I do have the door shut, so he's wanting to get in, but how about this one? This was a unique find. I found this one at my local record store, Sound Fixation. This is John Cooper Clarke and the album Zip Style Method. Now, John Cooper Clarke is kind of a poet, writer, that sort of thing. So it's not real vocals, but I'm surprised how much he does kind of attempt at singing, almost kind of that Leonard Cohen, Lou Reed kind of thing. And this is a good album. I've seen John Cooper Clarke on a lot of the sort of British panel shows like Would I Lie to You or Have I Got News for You. So he's looking a little older now. This is from 1982, and he has put out a number of albums, also a number of books as well, but I was really happy to find this, just completely by surprise. So happy to pick that one up. Okay, pick this up for about $7. This is Amy Stewart's Knock on Wood, her disco cover of the classic Eddie Floyd song, which is still great. I mean, it sounds great after all these years. And she also does a cover, I forgot on here, of the Doors' Light My Fire. So yeah, happy to pick this one up for fairly inexpensively. Okay, a Canadian band that's definitely worth exploring is the band Oddities from the West Coast. They had kind of a Men at Work sound, and certainly the lead vocalist Tad Campbell had that kind of sound. Tokyo Rose was a big hit from this one that still gets airplay on Canadian radio. So there's that, and then there's this album. This is Idle Eyes, and was it Standing on the Edge? Now, unfortunately, this was clearly like a radio or library copy, so we got this big sticker here. Not too many big hits off this one. This might have been their last album. Now, they're still going, but this might have been one of their last studio albums before they went sort of more independent, that sort of thing. Okay, we got a promo copy of Lindensfarne, and this is Happy Days, and that is I've never seen quite a sticker like that, a promotional copy. Happy to pick up any Lindensfarne, which is not easy to spot in my area. I do have this album. This is It's a Beautiful Day, their debut. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, the cover looks a little different, and yes it is. So this is a later press of It's a Beautiful Day, and I believe this might be the Dutch copy or the Dutch reissue. I could be wrong on that, but I think there was copyright issues with the original cover where for later reissues they couldn't use the original cover for whatever reason. So they went with this kind of. So this is an early 80s reissue for It's a Beautiful Day, the classic debut from like 1968. I mean, still sounds great. It's all the same song list and everything like that, but that's quite a, I mean, you're thinking it's kind of an 80s thing going on, but definitely not. It's a Beautiful Day. So happy to get the variant on the cover. Okay, a band I've always enjoyed is Jaluka. This is with Johnny Clegg, and you may remember the song Scatterlings of Africa. So this is another Jaluka album from 1984, really with that incredible, world music, the South African flavor, and of course Paul Simon would take, and use those rhythms as well, that sort of thing in terms of the early 80s, and this was on Warner. So Jaluka, yeah, happy to pick that up. And usually you can find those Jaluka albums pretty inexpensively. Okay, now for me, this next one was a great Canadian find. This is a band, Jericho, a band that I don't know much about, but have that real sort of band thing going on. This is on the Bearsville label and was produced by Todd Rundgren. And this is an outstanding album. I do believe this is their only studio album. I would have loved to hear more from this band. What's kind of nice is they do have a nice little write-up on all the band members, but you've got guys like Fred Keeler, lead guitar and vocals, but he was with David Clayton Thomas's first band, the Shays. Denny Gerard played with the Poppers. And you've also got Gord Fleming on organ, vocals, and piano, who played with David Clayton Thomas, Ronnie Hawkins, Jesse Winchester, John Hammond Jr., like fantastic. And they do have a special thank you to Garth Hudson of the band, also to Albert Grossman. So again, that whole sort of, the Woodstock, New York thing going on, but great album. Like the band, but not quite. Definitely check this out, Jericho. So yeah, I was really, really happy to pick that up. Okay, Gino Vanelli's a Canadian artist who's put lots of stuff out over the years, and this is Gino Vanelli, definitely getting into the 80s. A lot of his stuff was kind of 70s kind of soul sort of thing going on, but I do like this album. Now, this has got all the 80s trappings, but it just worked. Black Cars is still just a great kind of power 80s song. And he also, the song Hurts to Be in Love was a hit, Just a Motion Away as well. So this is definitely Gino Vanelli embracing the 80s, but it works really well on this album. Okay, happy to find this one. This is an early copy of Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz, and certainly remember when this one came out. And this is on the Jet label, so this is like the North American release. I think the UK one had a different back on it. And this one does not contain the original sleeve, although I don't remember a specific design sleeve on this one, but this is still an absolutely solid album from start to finish. This is really a great debut. Of course, I mean, Crazy Train we've heard a million times, but Mr. Crowley, just right from start to finish, Suicide Solution, and of course featuring Randy Rhoads on guitar, who of course sadly would only be with Ozzy for a couple of albums. Okay, now here's a nice, I don't want to say a psych grail, but a nice psych gem that I came across. This is the band Fever Tree, and unfortunately the cover is it's got this kind of weird blotchy thing. I think it was somebody's signature that was attempted to be removed and not successfully. So again, yeah, the band Fever Tree, and this is on the Uni label, and this is nice psych stuff. And I don't think they released too many albums, but gotta love the Uni label. But yeah, nice psych find on that. Okay, here was an interesting thrift store find. The soundtrack to La La Land, of course, with Ryan Gosling. And this, I've never seen the movie La La Land, and it's very kind of movie soundtrack stuff. It's very musical. It's kind of like old big band jazz kind of a feel to it. It's not bad. It's not great, but was very surprised to see a vinyl copy of this at my local thrift store, Value Village, and it's blue vinyl as well. So I thought, wow, I couldn't leave this one behind. But I don't know how often I'll listen to this one, but happy to pick this up. Okay, here's an artist I was not familiar with at all. This is Lord Bill Barnes and the Greatest Calypso Hits. Again, it's very nice, very easy to listen to, given certainly the time when enough of these albums were sort of being released in the sort of 50s and early 60s, when he's doing things like Yellow Bird. It's all very nice, and Sloop John B. and Lemon Tree, that sort of thing. But picking it up at the thrift store was happy to get that. Okay, here's an album I don't know why I picked up. I'm glad I did. This is an artist by the name of Keith Herman and Good News Day, Midland. It's pop rock, soft rock, and kind of a Hollies kind of feel. A UK artist, I believe, and this is actually a promo copy. As I say, why I picked this up, I don't know. It wasn't too expensive. This is from 1977. I don't think he had too many albums, but very enjoyable. I think you should be able to stream it, or at least find some of the songs online. But yeah, enjoyable. Sort of a kind of in a Hollies kind of thing going on. But yeah, Keith Herman. Okay, picked up, it's amazing how many albums Elvin Bishop has out. So this is the Elvin Bishop Band, and a fun cover, Hometown Boy Makes Good. There you go. And of course this features Mickey Thomas on vocals. Another fun, they do a cover of a Twist and Shout on this one. Another fun Elvin Bishop album. And this one is really a nice one. This is Elvin Bishop and Let It Flow. And I cannot believe the artists that guest star on this one. So you got Richard Betts, Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers Band on electric guitar. You also have Toy Caldwell on pedal steel guitar. Charlie Daniels is on here, and Sly Stone. That's right, Sly Stone is on organ on this album. And there's also a fellow by the name of Steve Miller on piano, but I think that's a different Steve Miller. But yeah, Sly Stone is featured on organ on this one. And it's got kind of a nice laid back kind of thing going on, but yeah. And this, I believe, is kind of his move from the West Coast to Georgia or something like that, hence the kind of look and feel of the album. But yeah, another great Elvin Bishop album. And Elvin Bishop and Struttin' My Stuff. So again, this is with Mickey Thomas on lead vocals. So this features the big hit Fooled Around and Fell in Love, which is a great radio hit. And they do quite a fast and funky version of My Girl on this one as well. But yeah, so if you're ever looking for Elvin Bishop and that great song, Fooled Around and Fell in Love, which is just a great radio hit, it's on this album. Okay, this was a nice surprise to have come across. Another Brownie McGee, Sonny Terry with Earl Hooker. And this is I Couldn't Believe My Eyes, and couldn't believe my eyes when I came across it. So yeah, very happy to pick that up. And it was someone from Ancaster, Ontario that previously owned this one. Funny, I think just recently I saw the Waxed VC show this one. He'd picked his up at a thrift store. I didn't get mine at a thrift store, but the debut of Joan Armatrading. You know, it's an artist I absolutely think is just amazing. She has such an incredible vocal quality. And yeah, this album was produced by Glenn Johns. So there you go. Okay, Mary Hopkin and the album Postcard. Now this is the North American issue on this, still on the Apple label, or yeah, this was actually through Capitol, but still I believe on the Apple label. We'll take a look at it, and still in the shrink, if you can believe it. Now this is, so I mentioned that this is the North American release because this does have Those Were the Days on it. The UK release doesn't have that song on it because it had already been released as a single. But as you can see in the shrink here, and yeah, still on the Apple label. But whoever, again, previously owned it, put their nice signature on the label there. A little bit of dust on the record there. My goodness. This is another album. I don't know how often I will listen to this because this is produced by Paul McCartney, and it's a nice, very folky album. I mean, Those Were the Days, you know, is just a great song. But the rest of this album, I mean, she does a lot of that sort of standards or Tin Pan Alley stuff, and I guess that was at Paul McCartney's urging to do that. I like the song Goodbye, which is a Paul McCartney written song, but that's not on this album. But she's doing things like Inchworm and There's No Business Like Show Business, but in a very kind of sparse and folky kind of thing. So you know, an interesting album to pick up, especially like still in the shrink. Mary Hopkin and Postcard, but I don't know how often I'll listen to that. Okay, here's some fairly obscure Canadian stuff. This is a band called Hounds and Unleashed, and as you can see, this is a promo copy, and I like how they have here, it's rock, yes. And then you can see the stamp on the back. I think kind of what you see is what you get. Good rock and stuff. It's too bad. I don't think this band released too many albums, but other than that, you've got John Hunter on vocals, Jim Orcus on guitars, John Horvath on drums, Glenn Rupp on guitars, and Joe Catone on bass and backing vocals. So there you go. I mean, it's good, solid rock and stuff. Okay, very happy to come across any Randy Newman. I often don't come across much Randy Newman, but really happy to get this absolute classic Randy Newman album, Sail Away. I forgot how good an album this was. I mean, when you got the title track, also He Gives Us All His Love, and also, of course, Leave Your Hat On, which, of course, many covers of that song over the years. But yeah, Randy Newman, great Randy Newman album. Okay, well, speaking from earlier with the album "It's a Beautiful Day" with color variants, I did pick up the cover variant, I should say, of Alan Parsons' project, and this is "Tales of Mystery and Imagination," Edgar Allan Poe. So this was originally released with a different cover, this more the North American release. But it's interesting here; they even really tell you quite clearly. Note: this album has been previously released in a jacket bearing different artwork. So there you go. Still a great record and very nice debut for the Alan Parsons project on 20th Century Records label. Okay, more fairly obscure Canadian. Quite the cover. This is the band Hound Dog, not to be confused with Hound. So this is straight on blues rock, and this is Every Dog Has Its Day. And hopefully you'll be able to take all the beauty of that cover in, and if it it gets even better with a nice full cigarette ashtray on the back here. But this is great stuff. I mean, when you can check out the song listings, you got some classic, blues covers. Really a decent band, Hound Dog, and this is on the Viper label. But yeah, happy to pick this up. Good album. Chris from Blues Guy Vinyl, I think you would enjoy that album. Okay, and it's surprisingly, I didn't have this album before. This is the Headpins and Line of Fire, and this is with Darcy Mills on lead vocals, and of course two of the guys from Chilliwack joined up the band here, but she has just great rock vocals. It's just fun to hear. She's just really underrated. She's got a great rock vocal. Darby Mills. But yeah, really happy to pick that up. A few hits off this one, some radio hits, but yeah. Very good. Okay, I love the cover on this, and I do have an increasing admiration for this artist. This is Paul Horn. As you can see, it's a little bit of a cutoff here in the corner. Paul Horn, a flautist, jazz flautist, really sort of exploratory. He had the album Inside that was actually recorded inside the Taj Mahal, which is just an amazing record. And so this is the album High Sun with quite the cover, but another really enjoyable Paul Horn album, and yeah, worth checking out for sure. Okay, Herman's Hermits. How about the best of the Herman's Hermits with the hype sticker actually right stuck on the label, which you often don't see, especially with older albums. Yeah, so this is the hype sticker, but whoever had it, or maybe it was issued that way, the hype sticker is like put right on it here. And so the best of the Herman's Hermits, kind of what you see is what you get. Peter Noon, it's great 60s stuff. Henry VIII I Am, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. Nice gatefold on that one. And another Herman's Hermits album, and I think it was Don at Old Gold Vinyl who showed this one. And this is Herman's Hermits, the album Blaze. And you don't see Herman's Hermits or Blaze written anywhere on the cover, just on the back. No big hits on this one. And I think this was only a North American only release. I could be wrong, but here's an example of when they do the old cutout punch hole here or here, wherever. Here's the worst one I've ever seen. So you probably can't even see it because there's so much going on in the cover. The whole cutout punch is right here. You might just be able to see it. So if it's there, wow. Like, really? Really? They couldn't have done it up here, down here. And then I'm thinking, okay, if it's there, did they really actually put it through the centerpiece and avoid the label? No. Wow. Like, really? Oh gosh, was it really worth that effort when you could easily either just snip the side, snip a corner off, or just do a little punch? No, you have to do it right through the center of the jacket. Oh my gosh, that was almost worth picking it up for sure. Okay, here's a duo I don't know a lot of information about, but boy, I'd like to seek out because I really enjoyed this album. This is Hedge and Donna and the album Evolution. Now, they're described as kind of folk rock, but they do have some good kind of soul R&B leanings. And in fact, Ronnie Tutt plays drums on this, and this is like their fourth or fifth album. But yeah, really enjoyed this. So this is kind of like early, I want to say late 60s, but I think it's the early 70s stuff on here. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have to seek out more of their albums. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Okay, I was really happy to pick up some of the catalog of Tim Hardin, which I don't often come across. So this is the best of Tim Hardin. Tim Hardin, very troubled folk singer, was featured at Woodstock, and not initially in the film, but he had kind of a very, it wasn't a great performance. He's definitely had issues with drugs and alcohol over the years, but Reason to Believe is one of his songs. Of course, Rod Stewart and many great covers on that one. And If I Were a Carpenter, I mean, a great folk artist, but very troubled. So here's the best of Tim Hardin. And then we also have a sort of a Tim Hardin kind of concept album, and with a very lengthy title on this one. This is Suite for Susan Moore and Damien. We are one, all in one. Okay. But a really nice, very nice, enjoyable album. Kind of a concept album on this one. I don't think there were any big hits on this one. And then I was able to pick up, speaking of, and his concerts were fairly erratic over his career as well, but Caption on this one with Tim Hardin 3, the third album, but it's live in concert. And this is a really nice performance. He's got a full band, in fact, with him on this one. But yeah, happy to come across this one. So again, here's another example. The hole punch. This one's a little bit big, and of course on a gatefold, it goes right through it. But yeah, happy to pick this up. Tim Hardin. Okay, an artist, Donovan, that sometimes is underrated over the years. What fascinates me about Donovan is that he's done so many different styles of music: the folk, electric folk, psych, glam, and sort of almost that sort of band sound, if you will. Whenever he does a different genre, he may not be getting a lot of hits from it, but he often does it very well. And in case in this one, this was going to be kind of like the album is called Open Road, but it's kind of like the band was called Open Road as well. So he's got some other, musicians with him on this one. But as I say, like when Donovan does different styles of music, he often does it very well. And this is another fine example. Nice kind of big, a nice band sound on this one. Okay, Steve Harley, great UK performer, was able to pick up a few Steve Harley records. And this is the album Hobo with a Grin, and he does a nice cover of I Wish It Would Rain on this one. And this is a Steve Harley live album. This is Face to Face, a live recording, Steve Harley and of course Cockney Rebel. And this is a double live album. Starts very oddly with a cover of Here Comes the Sun, which I was not quite expecting. And it takes a little bit for this album to get going, but it is a good double live album. You can see the song listing there. And I'll just show you the inside gatefold here. But yeah, happy to pick that up. Okay, this would be another sort of thrift store find, the Four Preps on campus. And this is so indicative sort of the time. And this is a mono record, not in bad shape, but not great shape. But it's, it's Four Preps. The Four Preps were one of the big influential bands for Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, just because of that, the four-part harmony sort of thing. But a lot of just corny jokes and a lot of audience banter, that sort of thing. But yeah, worth picking up though. Okay, another Jean-Michel Jarre album. This is Jean-Michel Jarre and Magnetic Fields. Not a bad album on Polydor. Another great artist I don't seem to come across too much is Leon Redbone, with his very distinctive vocals and No Regrets. Sort of an odd balancing act going on there. But another solid Leon Redbone album, and this on Sugar Hill. And Jerry Douglas is featured on this one. Of course, Jerry Douglas with Union Station with Alison Krauss, a great player. Okay, this was a thrift store find, Melissa Manchester, and the album Melissa. And what was the big hit on this one? This had, of course, Just Too Many People was the big hit on this one. Of course, it says it right here, right here on the cover. Contains the hit singles Just Too Many People and Midnight Blue. But, great vocalist, and in that terms of, that 70s kind of pop thing going on. But great vocalist. So that was a thrift store find. Also, more thrift store finds include Sergio Mendes, Greatest Hits. This is on A&M Records, of course. And this was kind of part of a sort of Greatest Hits issue series on A&M Records, where they would do things like Sandpipers and Wes Montgomery and this sort of style. Single album. But yeah, Sergio Mendes. This was a nice thrift store find. This was like, oh yes, Brooke Benton. It's Just a Matter of Time. Absolutely soulful, great song, and a really nice album. So this was a nice find. Again, sort of featuring, full color sort of cover, and then, when you're getting to drawings and whatnot on the back, just indicative of the style of album releases at the time. But on Mercury, Brooke Benton, It's Just a Matter of Time. Great song and a great vocalist. And this was another fun thrift store find. The Cufflinks and the song Tracy. And I guess a couple of Tracys on the cover here. The Cufflinks, that was pretty much their only big hit. And again, typically at this time, you've got the hit, but then it's a lot of covers like Sweet Caroline, Put a Little Love in Your Heart, Lay a Little Lovin' on Me, that sort of thing. But their hit was Tracy. They have really that kind of Archie sound. So if you didn't know, if you put this on, you would think it was Ron Dante and the Archies singing. It's pop, it's fun, it's sunshine pop, I guess, if you want to categorize it that way. But the Cufflinks and Tracy on Decca. Okay, picked up a few Linda Ronstadt albums. Forgot this album. This is like her, I want to say, third or second. Again, there's also Stone Pony releases, but in terms of Linda Ronstadt, Prisoner in Disguise. But I forgot what a great album this is. This has, of course, her cover of Neil Young's Love is a Rose. She also does a lovely version of Tracks of My Tears, Heat Wave, and also Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You is featured on this one. But an absolutely lovely, lovely album. And the gatefold there. And then we've got Linda Ronstadt and Living in the USA, where she's kind of rocking it up a bit on this one. And then Rocking It Up, which has been described as her sort of punk or new wave album. That might be a stretch. But sort of Linda Ronstadt and Mad Love, where she's kind of getting into that. And this was 1980, where she's definitely been influenced by the sort of new wave punk thing that's going on. Okay, this was from an online auction, and it's like, yeah, I'm in. Now, it's interesting with Ventures albums. They're often in not great condition. These ones, not too bad. Not too bad at all. So we got the Ventures, Play the Country Classics. We got the Fabulous Ventures, Needles and Pins, Pink Panther theme. And then we've got the Ventures, Walk, Don't Run. This is a stereo copy. The absolute classic. And then, of course, the Ventures and Surfin'. Okay, here's another thrift store find of a band that I had no idea about, but I've come to really enjoy. Now, this is a Christian band called this is a Christian band called Resurrection Band, and this is their album Rainbow's End. And there are actually two copies. This is one that is actually kind of a die-cut cover, but unfortunately you can't really tell initially, but a piece of it is missing here. So this was a Christian rock band from the mid 70s to the 80s, early 80s, but these guys rock pretty good. There's the dual vocals of Wendy Kaiser and Glenn Kaiser, and Wendy, she's got a solid voice. So as you can see, it's sort of, there's the piece that's missing here, then it comes out like that. But yeah, worth checking out. This is, again, Resurrection. So there were a few of their albums at the thrift store, so I picked up. Again, I didn't know anything about this group. The covers look kind of interesting, but they rock pretty good, let me tell you. So this is Resurrection Band and Rainbow's End. And then Resurrection Band and Mommy Don't Love Daddy Anymore. Interesting title, and then the cover doesn't seem to quite match that. But again, still great rock and sound and really good vocals. And then they changed their name or shortened it to the Rez Band. And now, as you can see, kind of moving into the 80s with This Is Hostage. And but again, still, great. Even though it's kind of moving into 80s territory, it still is. I have records flopping around here. Sorry about that. It's moving into 80s territory, but still great vocals and still rocking. Okay. Oh my goodness. We're almost done here. Sorry about that. Okay, flop. And at the same, when I picked up the Rez Band albums, I picked also this one up. This just looked interesting. And this is another Christian group from the UK. And so this is Nutshell and Fly Away, and I can't remember if the band is called Nutshell and the album is called Fly Away, or if it's the other way around. But this is getting into more kind of folky, kind of nice stuff. But yeah, happy to come across this one. This one is a record. I don't know how much I'll play of it, but yeah, there you go. I enjoyed the Resurrection Band a lot more in terms of comparing those two groups. Okay, Fergal Sharkey. I remember when this album came out and the track A Good Heart, and that is still just a fun pop song. So this is on Virgin Records. And yeah, of course, Fergal Sharkey, originally from the Undertones. This is an 80s album, but man, this album is great from start to finish. And I used to say, A Good Heart is just a great track. Kind of a weird kind of cover, but yeah, really enjoyable. Another thrift store find. This is Martin Denny. I do like picking up any Martin Denny I can find. This is on Liberty and A Taste of Honey. Also try to pick up any Chet Atkins, and I didn't even know that they recorded together. This is Chet Atkins and Lester Bangs. Lester Bangs. Lester Bangs. Les Paul, excuse me. Chet Atkins and Les Paul. No, Lester Bangs, the rock critic, I don't think recorded any records. So this is Chester and Lester, because it's often you don't see him go by Lester. He's usually Les Paul. But again, a really enjoyable album. And you get these two icons recording, Chet Atkins and Les Paul. He doesn't often go by Chester, too. Chester and Lester. It's a good ring to the title. But yeah, I was really happy to pick that one up. Okay, this is also a few more albums here. Now, these are not thrift store finds. We've got, boy, this was an interesting find. This is Bill Nelson's Red Noise, Sound on Sound. And this kind of really continues that Bebop Deluxe. Bill Nelson, formerly of Bebop Deluxe, it really continues that sound. I think this was one of the few solo albums he did, but this is worth seeking out, especially if you're a Bebop Deluxe fan. This is a great album. Don't let the cover, like you're thinking, what's going on here? But no, this is really solid. Again, that sort of Bebop Deluxe sound. Jazz artist I was not familiar with, but certainly enjoyed. This is Gene Ammons and the album Goodbye, Last Recording Session. Terrific saxophone, great jazz record. Buffy St. Marie album. This is simply called Buffy. Maybe not one of my favorite Buffy St. Marie albums. Still good overall, but I don't know. She's trying to sound a little bit more pop, I think, on this one. And this was on MCA. There, and then I do have a copy of this one, but picked up another really inexpensive copy of Alice Cooper's Love It to Death. Now this features the censored cover here with the finger covered up sort of thing, but this is in great shape, and he's just so solid. And it was nice to see a video with Smell the Vinyl, or Smell That Vinyl, where he talks about the song Sun Arise, and I had no idea that that was a cover, and that's actually a Rolf Harris song. What a bizarre way to end off the album, of course, that features I'm 18. It was kind of nice for this cover. It doesn't have the includes I'm 18 on here as well, so happy to pick that up. This was another, for me, this was a great Canadian find. This is the artist Lawrence Hudd, and this features the track, his track, Sign of the Gypsy Queen, that was later covered by April Wine. And so this is on A&M, and he has kind of a folk rock sound, and I really do like his version of Sign of the Gypsy Queen. I like April Wine's as well, but Lawrence Hudd is another artist who's led kind of a troubled life, did release a few solo albums over the years, but really, and looking very much like the Wolverine on this cover, but Lawrence Hudd, and again, this features a Sign of the Gypsy Queen. And another fairly obscure Canadian band, didn't know too much about this band, Rose. This is the album Judgment Day, but looking at the band members, it features Gary Lalonde, who would later go on to be part of Honeymoon Suite. So again, kind of what you see is what you get. It's good rock and stuff, and I don't think they put out too many albums. It's one of those things. It's too bad, because they had a really nice sound, great vocals, good rock and stuff. And last but not least, if I don't have any more albums flopping around, I did pick up a Tangerine Dream. Paid a little bit more for this album than I was kind of comfortable with, but I don't often see this on vinyl. Tangerine Dream and Firestarter. This is the movie soundtrack. Of course, a very young Drew Barrymore on the cover. My goodness. And check out the cast list with, gosh, you got George C. Scott on here. This is a Dino De Laurentiis film. You got George C. Scott, Art Carney. Unbelievable. Wow. There you go. All right, but a really nice sounding album. Okay, that is going to do it for this one. Sorry to take up so much of your time. Thank you so much for dropping by. I do appreciate your comments, and we'll chat again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.